This is J. Krishnamurti's sixth public talk in Saanen, 1975.
We said that we would talk about the very complex problem of what is death. I think we should look at this question not as something separate from other factors of life, like suffering, love, fear, pleasure, and the chaotic world we live in, and the confusion for most people. We shouldn't separate this factor of death from the rest. We should take it, I think, as a whole process. From the beginning of being born to dying. A whole movement of life. And before we go into that, we should also understand, I think, not verbally, but the question also of authority. As the world is becoming more and more confused, more and more disturbed, authoritarian governments are gradually creeping in the East, and so on. And when a political life is dominated by terrorism, by imprisonment, by all the totalitarian methods of propaganda which breeds fear, one has to be, I think, very much aware of this question, that it does breed great fear. And so, for those who live in these countries, fear becomes part of their life. And those who are seriously concerned with the whole of life should go into this question of authority. We are so eager to accept authority. They say so of somebody, intellectual, so-called religious, or psychological. So we submit ourselves to their concepts, to their description, to their way of thinking. And especially when we are considering this question of death, we should bear this in mind, that there is no authority whatsoever, including and especially of the speaker. And we also should apprehend, that is, hold, participate in the question of what is creation, which we went into the other day when we last met here. That which has continuity, which is thought, as movement in time, as long as time has no stop, there can not possibly be no creation. Time must have a stop to bring about that creative feeling, that creative action. And it is almost very difficult to understand what it means for time to have a stop. Because we are going to this question of death, which is the ending of time, in a totally different way. So we should understand, not intellectually, but feel our way, investigate whether there is a possibility of time coming to an end. I do not know if you ever thought about it. Poets have written about it, talked about it. Novelists have said there is an ending to time. But one doesn't accept all these romantic, theoretical suppositions. One wants to find out for oneself, what does it mean for a time to end? We said thought is movement in time. That time is a bondage in the world of reality. We went into that. And whether time as measure, as movement of thought, can never possibly end, either consciously or deep down. One may theoretically accept the possibility of time coming to an end consciously. One can work at it, one can imagine, one can almost feel the ending. But the movement in the semi-conscious state, in that dim consciousness, time is part of the structure. Because after all our conditioning is a result of time. It may be one day or 10,000 years. We are conditioned in so many ways, influenced through propaganda, influenced by books, by talks, by radio, by everything around us, trying to penetrate deeper and deeper and deeper. And the more authoritarian the world becomes, the more penetrating, and the technological penetration of propaganda is becoming more. So we are a result of all that, which is fairly obvious, which we don't have to go into great detail. You can believe in God because that's your conditioning. But a communist, he says that's all nonsense because that's his conditioning. So we're all conditioned. One can consciously eliminate, if one is at all serious and aware and alert, one can consciously put away all that. That's fairly simple. and not fall into another trap of conditioning. But the unconscious movement that is in the deep layers of one's consciousness, deep recesses of one's mind, there is the movement of time. The hope, the events of the past are deeply embedded. And whether that time as a whole, both at the conscious and the deeper level, can totally come to an end. One can ask this question verbally, but to penetrate into that, not intellectually, you can't do this intellectually, which is the structure of words, the comprehension of words, the realization intellectually that words have no significance, but yet be caught in words. And to go into this question of time as coming to an end, because if it does not come to an end, there is only variety in continuation, a modified change in continuity, which is time. Thought can adjust itself to any environment and shape itself according to various influences and demands. One must have noticed all this around you. And to find out whether time has a stop, which is a tremendously important question, because that steps one's evolution as we know it, which is a process of time. Gradual growth, gradual becoming, gradual fulfillment, gradual activity of desire, all that. Is part of the continuity of time. So, we are going to go into this question of authority, which we have done a little bit, of the mind, thought, the brain, adjusting itself to all environment, whatever it is, because brain needs security, and therefore thought will adjust itself to communism, to Catholicism, to whatever it is. And as long as there is a continuity, which is the movement of time as thought, that movement, however expressive, however capable, however technologically perfect, that unless that movement comes to an end, there is no creativeness. Because if we continue the same pattern, not only the same pattern, but in a different modes, there is a constant continuity. So that is the question. And is it possible not consciously. Because if you do something consciously, then it is not. It's part of the process of thought. To find out whether time has an end, not cultivated, not through the action of will stop thought. Will is part of thought. Will is part of desire. And when there is an action of will, then there is no ending of thought. Right. That is the... So we are going to then find out what does it mean to die? Because that may be the absolute truth. That may be the ending of all time. Please, we are sharing this together. I'm not taking a journey by myself. Is death something separate from living? Is death something totally opposite of existence? Is death the ending of all that one has built in oneself, that one has experienced, that one has observed, gone into? Does it all end? You understand my questions? Or is death not something separate but part of living? Though we have separated, put it far away from us, because we are frightened of it. We never even talk about it. Or is it part of the whole movement of life? Is it part of suffering? Is it part of love? We're going to find out all these things out. First of all, one has to consider what various religions and so-called people of ancient times have said about death. Because modern generation doesn't talk about death. No books are written about it. Nobody says, live properly in order to die properly. Death is something to be avoided. Something which you don't want even to look at. You may pass a cemetery or a crematorium and then you shut your eyes and rather say how ugly it all is and move on. So, if we are serious, we are going to look at it. We're going to face it, not avoid it, not speculate about it, not demand comfort, and no tears The Asiatic world says, especially in India, which at one time exploded over the whole of Asia, as Greece exploded over the Western world, said that there is an entity called the self, the ego, the me, that gathers experience through life after life, which is called reincarnation, goes through life after life, perfecting itself, and ultimately arrives at the highest principle, which is Brahman. Call it by different names, that is their whole concept. And people, especially in the Asiatic world, believe that most intensely. They said they have proof that you exist, that what you are now is the result of your past, and that your future as an entity depends on how you behave now, what your actions are now, because that will determine what you will be. Though the believers say this, but they don't act. They just believe, which is a very comforting, nonsensical, meaningless thing. And you have in the Western world quite also a concept of that kind. The Christian belief that you must be buried, and ultimately Gabriel blows a trumpet and you go to heaven. You know all that business. And the ancient Egyptians, from what one has been told, and one has been told accurately by professionals, that they believed in this reincarnation. It is a very old concept. It's a very old belief which gave man a great comfort. Because he said, after all, I live only 80, 40, 50 years, and I accumulate so much, and what's the point of it all if I don't continue? We want to find out what is the truth of this. Not a speculative, imaginative acceptance of a tradition. Tradition being that which is handed over from generation to generation. And also that word means betrayal. Betraying the present by the past. So we're going to find out. Please don't accept at all what the speaker is saying under any circumstance. Because you are very easily influenced. Because it's your life. Before we go into that, we must also understand very deeply, not verbally, that you are the world and the world is you. Not an idea, but deep understanding of it, the truth of it. What you are, in essence, deeply, the world is. You are like the rest of the world. You have your problems, your suffering, your tears, your pleasures, your fears, anxieties. All that is like anybody else, whether he lives in China, Japan, or in Russia, or in America. Basically, you are that. You are the world. And at the peripheral existence, you are conditioned. And according to that conditioning, your temperament is, your idiosyncrasies are, the way you behave, all conditioned by the culture in which you live on the circumference, on the outside, at the peripheral level. But basically, you are like the rest of the world. Right? Please, this is something you've got to understand. Therefore, you are not different from somebody who is greedy, envious, accepting authority, afraid, competitive, violent. That's the world. And you are part of that. So, what is death? There is old age, disease, accident, poisoning, various forms of physical destruction of the organism. That's a fact. I don't think one is afraid of that. One accepts it. Doesn't one? As you grow older, as you may have an accident, you walk across the road and something, a bus strikes you or a car, and that's it. Disease. One accepts, if one is at all rational, sane, that the organism comes to an end naturally or unnaturally. That doesn't cause so much fear. What causes fear, it seems, is that the ego, the me, that has acquired so much, that has lived such a strenuous life, that has accumulated knowledge, that has accumulated all kinds of movement, and it has accumulated. And this is the ending of all that. It is that one is afraid of, if one observes that. So, what is the me that clings to what is the known? You understand? The unknown is the death. And I cling to the known. The me says, I know, I have lived, I have acquired, I have experienced. I have suffered enormously. I have been through all kinds of delights. And that me is resisting, frightened, avoiding this thing called death. Right? This is so. Please, we are going together. I am not dragging you like the train. Oh, that's the rain. So one has to go, inquire, investigate what is the me. Is it the result of thought? Is it put together by the movement of time? Is it the result? Is it not? Does it exist by itself, apart from thought? You know? What a climate this is. First of all, does it have a life of its own, independent of thought? Or has thought put it together and that self thinks it is independent of thought? Do you understand the question? Do we understand the question? Thought, we said, is the movement of time. Thought, in the world of reality, thought separates itself from that which it has put together. Thought has built this, but that has become independent of thought. The mountain or the tree is not put together by thought, but it is independent of thought. And thought has built the me, obviously. And the me has separated itself from the thought, from the thought which has built me. Now, what is the reason of building the structure called the me? Why has thought done this? You're following all this? Please, move with me. Don't go to sleep. Because this is really an extraordinarily important question, all this. Because it's our life. We have to take this desperately serious. Why has thought created the me? If you see the fact that thought has built the me, if you say the me is something divine, something that existed before all time, which many do, we have to investigate that too. So first, we are asking, why has thought created the me? Why? I don't know, I'm going to find out. Why do you think thought has created the me? There are two things on there. One is, thought demands stability. Because it's only where there is security there can be the action, there can be a satisfying answer to the brain. That is, where there is security, the brain operates marvelously, either neurotically or reasonably. So, one of the reasons is that thought being insecure in itself, fragment in itself, broken up in itself, has created the me as something permanent. The me, which has become separate from thought, and therefore thought recognizes it as something permanent. And this permanency this permanency is identified through attachment. My house, my character, my wish, my desire, all that gives complete sense of security and continuity to the me. Isn't that so? I mean, we are investigating, you are not silent. Just listening to me, you are going into it with the speaker. And the idea that the me is something before thought. Is that so? And who can ever say that it existed before thought? You understand my question? If you say it existed before thought, see the point of it. If you say it existed before thought, as many do, then on what reason, on what basis do you assert that? Is it an assertion of tradition, of belief, of not wanting to recognize that the me is a product of thought, but something marvelously divine, which again is the projection of thought, that the me is permanent? So, one observes, putting away the idea that the me is everlastingly divine or everlastingly timeless or whatever it is, that's too absurd. But one can see very clearly that thought has built the me. The me that has become independent, the me that has acquired knowledge, the me that is the observer, the me which is the past, the me which is the past, passes through the present, modifies itself as the future. It is still the me, put together by thought. And that me has become independent of thought. Right? Shall we go on from there? No, please don't accept the description. Not the words, but see the truth of this thing. As you see the fact of this microphone, see that thing. That me has a name, a form. The me has a label called K or John. And it is its form. It identifies with the body, with the face, with the whole business. So there is the identification of the me with the name and with the form. With the form, that is the structure. And with the ideal which it wants to pursue. Or the desire to change the me into another form of me, with another name. So this is the me. That me is the product of time and therefore thought. That me is the word. Remove the word, what is the me? So, that me suffers. The me as the you suffer. So the me in suffering is you. The me in its great anxiety is the great anxiety of the you. Therefore, you and I are common. That's the basic essence. Though you are taller, shorter, more clever, have a different temperament, different character, all that are the peripheral movement of culture. But deep down, basically we are the same. So that me is moving in the stream of greed, in the stream of selfishness, in the stream of fear, anxiety and so on, which is the same as you in the stream. I wonder if you get this. Please don't accept what I'm saying. See the truth of it. That is, you are selfish and another is selfish. You are frightened, another is frightened. Basically, you are aching, suffering, tears, greed, envy. That is the common lot of all human beings. That is the stream in which we are living in the present. Right? That's the stream in which we are caught, all of us. We are caught in the stream while we are living. Please see that we are caught in that stream as an act of life. That is, this stream is selfishness. Let's put it that way. That stream is, in that stream we are living. The stream of selfishness. That word includes all the descriptions which I have just now given. And when we die, the organ dies. But the selfish stream goes on. You understand? Just wait, look at it, take time, consider it. Suppose I have lived a very selfish life. That is, self-centered activity. My desires, the importance of my desires, the ambitions, the greed, the envy, the accumulation of property, accumulation of knowledge, accumulation of all kinds of things I have gathered, which I have termed as selfishness. And that is the thing I live in. That's the me. And that is the you also. In our relationship, it is the same. So, while living, we are together flowing in the stream of selfishness. Got it? You see, this is a fact, not my opinion, not my conclusion. If you observe it, you see it. Whether you go to America, you see the same phenomenon. In India, all over Europe, modified by the environmental pressures and so on and so on. But basically that is the movement. And when the body dies, that movement goes on. So there is this vast stream of selfishness, if I may use that word, to include all the things that is implied in that word, is the movement of time. And when the body dies, that goes on. Go slowly in this. I'm going to go into this a little more. And I die. My wife, tearful, upset, lonely, missing the companionship, having no money, you follow, is suffering. Still like the rest of the world. And she goes to a medium, seance, because she wants to get into touch with me, because she's lonely, unhappy, suffering, no money, all that. And the medium there gets into contact with what it calls the me, the husband, and says, your husband is here. He has a message for you. He says he's perfectly happy. Look under the drawer and you'll find the testament. This phenomenon is repeated differently in different ways all over the world. Either it is the medium picking up the intimation, unconscious intimations of the wife and repeating it. One can do that very simply if you have observed that there is such thing as transmission of thought. You must have played with it, you must know it, it has its own reality. Or out of that stream of selfishness, the thought of K still exists, and the thought manifests. So there it is. We live in that stream in our daily life till we die, and when we die, that stream continues. Just a minute. That stream is time. There is time. That is the movement of thought which has created suffering, which has created the me, which the me has now asserted itself being independent and divides itself from you, but the me is the same as you when it suffers. So the me is the word. Oh. The me is the word. The me is the imagined structure of thought. In itself, it has no reality. It is what thought has made it. Because thought needs security, certainty. So it has invested in the me all its certainty. And in that there is suffering and all the rest of it. In that movement of selfishness, while we are living, we are being carried in that stream. When I die, that stream exists. Is it possible for that stream to end? You understand? I die physically, that's obvious. My wife may cry about it. But the fact is I die. The body dies. And this movement of time is going on, of which we are all part. That's why the world is me and me is the world. And will there be an end to this stream? And is the manifestation of that ending of the stream, is it the manifestation of something totally different from the stream? I wonder if you follow all this. Are you interested in all this? Hein? Ça vous plaît tout ça? Ça vous donne quelque chose? C'est trop? Bien. Which is, can selfishness, with all its decorations, with all its subtleties, come totally to an end? And the ending is the ending of time. And therefore, there is totally different manifestation of that ending, which is no selfishness at all. I wonder if you've understood this little bit. See, there are several things involved in this. In that stream, is there a you and me? You understand? When there is suffering, is there a you and me? Or there is only suffering? I identify myself as the me in that suffering, which is the process of thought. But the actual fact is, you suffer and I suffer. Not me suffers, something independent of you who are suffering. I wonder if you see that. So there is only suffering, not I suffer and you suffer. You suffer because I suffer but keep to myself. I suffer because my son, my wife, my husband, my neighbor, my relative is dead. I suffer because my wife has turned away from me. I suffer because there is loneliness. I suffer because I can't fulfill, I can't get everything I want. I want position, power, money, sex, in that order. And I suffer. Don't you also suffer in the same way? So, the suffering is the same as me. It is not I suffer something separate from you. You understand, sir? That's a tremendous thing to find out. So there is no individual suffering. There is individual blindness. But that's a physical phenomenon. But the suffering is the same as you and me. Therefore, there is only the factor of suffering. Do you know what it does when you realize that? Oh, God. Out of that non-personalized suffering, non-identified as the me who is suffering, separate from you, when there is that suffering, out of that comes tremendous sense of compassion. I wonder if you see that. The very word suffering comes from the word passion. So I've got this problem now. Living, there is selfishness. Dying, there is selfishness. And that is this stream of time as a movement of thought. And that stream of selfishness can manifest itself, which is happening all the time. That manifestation of that selfishness may have a name, as John Smith, Kay, and somebody else. But if there is no name, you understand? If there is no naming of that suffering as belonging to me, what is then the individual at all? You follow? I wonder if you see this thing. I suffer. There is suffering. And that suffering has been given a name and a form as K. K is me. Has been given a name and a form. And that name and form becomes the individual. Separate from the stream of suffering. And that individual says, I'm different from you. I'm clever, I'm dull, or you are more clever, or this and that. If there is no naming as the form, and no naming the form, then is there an individual at all? I wonder if you see, this is too. The word individual means indivisible. A human being who is not fragmented, indivisible in himself. That is the whole. Whole being, healthy, sane, rational, holy. And when death takes place, when there is living, is there an ending of time as movement of thought and suffering? Now, you follow the question? Can I, as a human being, living, knowing I'm in that stream I exist as selfishness, can that stream, can that movement of time come totally to an end? Both at the conscious as well as the deep level. Do you understand my question? After describing all this. Now, how will you find out? How will you find out whether you, who are caught in that stream of selfishness, can completely step out of it? What is the ending of time? And therefore, death is the ending of time as a movement of thought, if there is the stepping out of that, can you, living in this world, with all the beastliness of it, the world that man has made, which thought has made, the dictatorship, the totalitarian authority, the destruction of human minds, destruction of the earth, the animals, everything he touches he destroys, including his wife and husband. Now can you live in this world completely and without time? That means no longer caught in that stream of selfishness. Can you? Now, who is going to tell you whether you can or cannot? You understand? Or will you take time? You understand? If you take time, you're still in there. Still in the stream. So the whole idea of gradual change, gradual evolution, gradual process is still the continuity of suffering, continuity of selfishness. I wonder if you see. So, do you actually see this? See in the sense, clearly as you see the speaker sitting on the platform. See, there are much more things involved in this which you haven't time to go into. Because there is such thing as great mystery. Not this thing invented by thought. That's not mysterious. The occult is not mysterious, which everybody is chasing now. That's the fashion. The experiences which drugs give is not mysterious. This thing called death and seeing all this, the description, and much more involved in it. And the mystery that lies when there is a possibility of stepping out of it. Which is, as long as one lives in the world of reality, which we do, can there be the ending of suffering in that world of reality? Wait, think about it, look at it, don't say yes or no. If there is no ending of suffering in the world of reality, which is order, if there is no ending of suffering, which is selfishness, please, I'll use the word selfishness. If there is no ending of selfishness in the world of reality, it is selfishness that creates disorder in the world of reality. If there is no ending to that, then you haven't understood or grasped the full significance of ending time. Therefore, you have to bring order in the world of reality. That is in the world of relationship, in the world of action, in the world of rational thinking and irrational thinking, the fear, pleasure, self, all that is in the world of reality. So can one living in the world of reality as we are end selfishness? You know, it's a very complex thing, ending selfishness. It isn't just I won't think about myself. It's a very complex thing and very subtle. One may think one is not selfish, but deeply there is this root of it, which shows itself in its peculiar ways. So, to be enormously aware of all that means being sensitive. You cannot be sensitive if you drink, if you take drugs, smoke. Obviously. Or you cannot learn by going to college how to be sensitive. You cannot learn how to be sensitive from another. You have to be aware of one's insensitivity. One is aware of one is sensitive to one's desires, to one's hurts, to one's demands. But we are talking of being sensitive totally, both physiologically as well as psychologically. That means one has to have an excellent body, not drugged body by alcohol or overeating and all the rest of it. So one has to be aware of this selfishness in the field of reality, because this selfishness in the field of reality is creating chaos. And you are the world and the world is you. If you change deeply, you affect the whole consciousness of man. Pastor, is that enough for this morning? I think so.